غرباء 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 غرباء.
My question is, can I stop paying this back and face whatever consequences come to me and put my trust in Allah? Or will these be classed as unpaid debts on the day of judgment and stand against me? Jazakallah khair. Inshallah, that question goes to Sheikh Assim.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillahi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa man ihtada bihudahu wa ba'd. With the grace of Allah Azza wa Jal, Islam does not instruct you to kill yourself or imprison yourself or put yourself in harm's way. And therefore, if you had gone into this haram transaction unknowingly, and now the consequences are as follows: either you pay or you go to prison. And even if you go to prison, it's going to accumulate more and more and more. And therefore, scholars say that you pay what you have to pay so that you would save yourself from being prosecuted or imprisoned, and never to go back to such a transaction, and seek Allah's forgiveness, and Allah is most forgiving.
Okay, the next questioner asks, what advice do you have for a 12-year-old boy and his 15-year-old sister? They are trying to practice the deen, but their Muslim parents are trying to stop them from reading the salah, wearing hijab, etc. Their parents also mock the beard and the jilbab. They also shout abuse at those who go to masajid and try to isolate their children from relatives who are practicing. What advice do you have for the young brother and sister? For Sheikh Alaa, inshallah.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulullah, amma ba'd. Subhanallah, we alluded to that in the earlier session. And it's amazing enough that most of us as parents, we would love nothing more to see than our own daughters and sons to practice the deen. We would give everything we have to save our children. Isn't it enough to know that the utterance says, كَفَى بِالْمَرْءِ إِثْمًا أَن يُضَيِّعَ مَا يَقُوتُ. Another narration, مَا يَعُولُ. Allahu Akbar. It is sufficient of a sin that you lead astray who you're responsible for, or those who you spend your money upon, meaning your children. It's sufficient of a sin on Judgment Day. So your children want to become good practicing Muslims and you tell them not to? Allahu Akbar ya akhi. I have no idea what happened to the hearts. Brothers and sisters, the young, the children, you have no choice of your father and your mother ya akhi. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِن جَاهَدَاكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكَ بِمَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. So my advice to you, my young brothers and sisters, is even if your parents, according to the verse, even if they strive, they struggle to make you commit an act of shirk, do not obey him in that act of shirk. But still you have to be obedient to them and being righteous to them as long as they're alive. Do abundance of righteous deeds, according to the opinions of the interpreters on this one. So the only thing is, don't obey them. لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق. There is no obedience of the creation, meaning your parents, and the disobedience of the creator, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have our way set. However, so what do? You fight back with them? Of course not. You have to be smart, intellectual, win their heart over, lead by example, and show them that walk the talk. Show them what Islam actually teaches. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide them. And stick with the righteous company as much as you can. Even though if you go back to Surah Al-Buruj, and that's another long story, but it won't take much of your time. You see what happened? When the young man, he had to make a choice between the sahir, the magician, or the alim, the knowledge to do it. So hang in there, keep with the righteous company. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide your parents, inshallah, and speak in a third person, like we learned from Al-Hasan and Hussein. And talk in terms of endearment to them. You still, inshallah, in good hands. But what I ask you, inshallah, is to bring your parents, or ask a person that is respected in the family or practicing, or bring him to the Sheikh to speak to them logically. Give him a gift like a CD or a DVD to talk about the righteous and the rights of the the rights of the children upon the parents. Speak to them in a nice way, respectful, and be patient with them, and make lots of dua, but never give up what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you and bestowed upon you. Hold on to La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah ya akhi. That's the best thing you have. Other than that, you lose this dunya and the hereafter. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair. The next question is for Sheikh Abu Usamah. What is the ruling on jokes? Is it okay to make a joke while it is a lie, although people know it is a joke?
Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. It's not permissible to lie except in 3 circumstances, and this is not one of those circumstances. As a matter of fact, the Nabi of al-Islam, al-Mustafa al-Amin, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said in an authentic hadith, وَيْلٌ لِلَّذِي يَكْذِبُ لِيُضْحِكَ النَّاسِ. Woe unto those people who lie in order to make the people laugh. So it is not permissible to make jokes while lying. This is the lie that is not permissible. And lying is a kabira from the kaba'ir, so it should be avoided altogether. Inna Allaha la yahdi man huwa musrifun kadhab. Innal kadhab yahdi ila al-fujur, wa innal fujur yahdi ila al-nar, wa la yazal al-rajulu يكذب في حديثه حتى يكتب عند الله كذابا. Lying leads to evil, fujur, and the fujur leads to the hellfire. A person will not cease to lie in his speech until he is written down with Allah as a liar. قُتِلَ الْخَرَّاسُونَ. Those people who are liars, they will be destroyed. So lying while joking or joking while lying is not permissible.
Question for Sheikh Asim. It was mentioned that Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, his wife shouted at him. Some sisters use this as an excuse to justify their shouting at their husbands and say that their husbands should tolerate it, as Umar radiallahu anhu did. Is this correct?
This fine way of treating women was from Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, not as an obligation, but as a way of honoring his wife. So we do not expect people to abuse this by saying so. When Allah tells us to forgive and pardon people when they wrongdo us, does this justify for you to wrongdo me and swear at me and curse at me, and whenever I want to fight back, you say, Akhi, Allah Azza wa Jal complimented those who forgive and pardon, and you should be among those. You don't justify your wrongdoing by asking me to have the upper hand and to be a better person. Nevertheless, we don't expect women to not shout and not nag and not complain, because this is human nature. You have to govern this within its proportion. So if you have this once every blue moon, it's okay. A man is supposed to tolerate it, but if she's doing this every single day, in the morning and the evening, like adhkarus salat, then you have a problem, and you cannot blame a brother for not tolerating this kind of behavior, and Allah knows best.
Question for Sheikh Alaa. Should looks be taken into consideration when choosing a wife or a husband? Is it acceptable to say no if you don't find the brother or sister attractive?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah, amma ba'd. Question is very, mashallah, well put. And Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, rahmatullahi alayhi, he says, explains the hadith, tunkih al-mar'a li-arba', and he doesn't go against it, he explains why you should do the following. Of course, everybody knows, right? Especially the brothers, you know why you should, 4 things you marry a wife for, and everything that we forget except one. Remember one thing about the hadith. What do you remember, brothers? Lijamaliha, right? That's the only thing you remember the hadith, of course. The beauty, but you don't remember the rest. So Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, rahmatullah alayhi, says it's actually first thing, even though number 1 on Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's list and most important is what? Is the religious background. But he says don't look that first. Don't look for that first, according to him, and I'll explain why. He says first look for the looks. Look for the looks. Is he going against the hadith? No, he's not. He says first, when you look for the looks, and if you like the looks, you move on. You ask for her deen. If her deen is there, continue. But don't look for the deen first. If the sister is got, mashallah, great religious background, but she is ugly. Allah help you, Allah. So what are you going to do? Because you say no, that means you refuse the deen. So he's saying, do your homework. Do your homework. If you like the looks, ask for the most important, inshallah, which is, religious background, the lineage, and the wealth, and so on, or the four reasons. But Islam is a practical religion and recognizes that you are a human being and you are physically based. The brothers are physically based. The sisters are emotionally based. If you've been to the home sweet home, you'll know what I'm talking about. So you are first, you have the animalistic sense first, right? As a brother, you're a hunter. First, you like what? You're physically attracted. So you have to have this wife, beautiful, especially when you walk downtown London in the summer. What are you going to do? You see all the brothers and sisters in humanity looking like what they're looking like. And I'm sure you lower your gaze, right? Sure, yeah, sure. So you see all these things outside and you go home and you find out your wife looking like, Wallahu musta'an. So you have that right, ya akhi. It's your right to enjoy and have it. And not only for the husband to the wife. On the contrary, the sisters also have the right to have a pleasant looking and handsome husband, inshallah. So these are rights. You are ukhti. You have these rights to do it. It's a God-given right, accepted, inshallah. But the most important, of course, we said, is the religious background, according to the hadith. And according to the hadith for the brothers, of course, it's repeated 3 times in the Tirmidhi. When Prophet Muhammad says, if a brother comes to you with a khuluq, the deen and the khuluq, fankihu, marry them. So these are the things, and they asked, وَإِن كَانَ فِيهِ, they said, repeated it 3 times. And if they had this, so that's the basis, inshallah. But of course, as a practical religion, Islam is comprehensive, but accepting the looks are also part of it, but it's not the foundation or the basis that you pick on. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair. The questioner asks, if a husband married and initially could provide for his wife and later he could not as his income decreased, should he divorce his wife? For Sheikh Abu Usamah.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. No one knows what tomorrow holds for him in terms of his rizq. So he has money today and he doesn't have money tomorrow. If every time a person lost money or his wages went down, and as a result of that it necessitated that he divorces his wife, then many people will get divorced. So it's not a necessity. It's possible that a person finds himself in a situation where he is oppressing himself and oppressing his family, his wife, by remaining married. She's young, he doesn't have any children, and he's in the dirt. If he chooses to free her and it's a mutual understanding and agreement, you can comprehend that, you can understand that. But no one in his right mind, his aql is there, and he has taqwa and he has deen. And he believes that Allah Ta'ala is Ar-Razaqu Dhul Quwwat al-Mateen. No one in his right mind is going to divorce his family because his wages went down. So this is an issue that requires, inshallah, imanun billah, yaqeenun billah, and a tawakkul ala Allah Azza wa Jal from the husband as well as from the wife. As Allah mentioned in the Quran, نَحْنُ نَرْزُقُكُمْ وَإِيَّاهُ. We provide for you and we provide for them. So the individual just does that the best that he can, inshallah. And in those times of difficulty, because they prayed, because they had the right aqidah, because they were decent people, they remembered Allah during the good times. When these times come, Allah Azza wa Jalla is going to remember them. So it's not the time to get divorced and to break up the family, but it's the time to tie the belt and to become even stronger. And Allah is a'la and a'lam.
Jazakallah khair. The questioner asks, what advice would you give to somebody who is planning on traveling abroad to seek knowledge with regards to having difficulty in their finances? And this question goes to each of the mashayikh. What advice would you give to somebody who is having financial difficulty but is traveling abroad to seek knowledge?
Good luck. You want more elaboration?
Please.
First of all, seeking knowledge is good. And most likely the brother is referring to either traveling to Saudi or Saudi. If you can make it, alhamdulillah. If you cannot, traveling to study knowledge abroad does not make you a sheikh. It does not make you a alim. You can be here studying knowledge in the UK and become a student of knowledge. And a lot of the brothers who went to where I come from with the intention of seeking knowledge came back empty-handed, could not continue to live. If you go with your dignity and an empty wallet and you start begging people and you're married and you have children and you want people to give you zakat, what kind of knowledge is this? So remain where you are and increase studying and pursuing knowledge in the best fashion. Or, as a lot of the brothers did, get a career, a job, save money, and go with this money and study. But to go and this, we always hear this, Sheikh, I'd like to be a scholar. I would want to become a alim. This is not an objective. Studying knowledge is not to become a da'i, to become an orator, to become someone that people point at you and say, MashaAllah, MashaAllah. This does not help you. It does not add anything to you. What adds value to you is your status beside Allah Azza wa Jal. How does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala look at you? So you can do this without people pointing at you. On the contrary, it's an even greater responsibility. So I would advise, if you don't have the means to sustain an honorable life when you go abroad to study and take your wife with you and your children, don't go. Because then you will humiliate yourself, you would reach out for people's money and you will look at them whenever someone reaches out for his wallet or pocket thinking that he's going to give you something. And what kind of humility is this? This goes completely against seeking knowledge and being a person of ilm, and Allah knows best.
In my opinion, I think that the situation has some tafsil, details. If a young person wants to go to study, doesn't have a lot of money, and he doesn't have a lot of responsibility, doesn't have a wife or children, then I would encourage him to tie his camel to the best of his ability and to look for a good place like Al-Medina, Mecca, Riyadh, some of the other universities in the Khalij, but especially Al-Medina and Mecca, because they actually pay you to study. You get a small salary, a stipend that will help you, is stable. The quality of life, the standard of living is close to what he has been used to, even sometimes better. So he goes. If he doesn't have a lot of money, if he can't get into Medina and Mecca and he's just going to find, as they say, get in where he fits in and hope for the best, I even still encourage him to go. Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, الَّذِينَ يُجَاهِدُونَ فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبَلَنَا. Those people who make jihad and they make efforts for our cause, we're going to guide them to the right way. We're going to guide them to the right way. مَنْ سَلَكَ طَرِيقًا يَلْتَمِسُ فِيهِ عِلْمًا سَهَّلَ اللَّهُ لَهُ بِهِ طَرِيقًا إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ. Anyone who goes out, anyone, married, not married, old, young, Arab, not Arab, he goes out in search of knowledge. Knowledge far, knowledge close, Green Lane Masjid. He goes out in search of knowledge. Allah will make easy for him the way to Al-Jannah. We believe in the kalam of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But that kalam doesn't mean that you throw caution to the wind and you put yourself in a difficult situation. When the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was coming back from the farewell pilgrimage, the Hajjatul Wada', the wife of Az-Zubair ibn Awam, Asma radiyallahu anhum, she was about to give birth on the way back from Mecca. Az-Zubair, the father, the husband, he wanted to stay with the Nabi to follow what was he doing from Mecca to Medina, observing every big thing, every small thing that he was doing. He wanted to leave someone else responsible for his wife. The Nabi told him, no, go and you take care of your wife where she's going to have the baby, and we're going to continue to go to Medina. So the man who was married, his case is not like the man who was not married. So if you are married, as the hadith said, مَا يَنْبَغِي لِلْمُؤْمِنِ أَنْ يَظِلَّ نَفْسَهُ. It is not acceptable, befitting for the believer to put himself down, to make himself lowly. They said, how does he do that, Ya Rasulullah? How can one of us put himself down? He said, by putting yourself in a situation you can't handle. Going around begging people and asking for people, asking money. So I'm all for people going out to travel, the life of the student, whether he's married or not married. It is a blessed life, hilu, blessed life, but he has to get in where he fits in. Choose the place that's most appropriate to you. You want to go to the Damaj? The Damaj is a place of knowledge. It's a place of knowledge. But can you and your wife handle the situation there? Can you and your wife and your one child, 2 children, handle the situation there? Lastly, wherever you go, if you do decide to go, after tying your camel, if you come back balanced. Don't come back as a Saudi. Don't come back as a Pakistani if you're not Pakistani. Don't come back trying to implement and superimpose the Yemenis culture on the people that you're giving dawah to. Wabillahi tawfiq.
Jazakallah khair. Inshallah, question for Sheikh Alaa. Could you advise with regards to the relationship between the in-laws? The sister in particular mentions that bossy and controlling in-laws, as well as a wife's right to visit her family and relatives.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulullah. Amma ba'd. I usually don't talk about politics, but Allah help us, wallahi. The in-laws syndrome, right? The in-laws syndrome. You know what I usually advise the sisters before they get married? Ask themselves first, are they coming from back home? So some of us call it just to get out of the place so-called back home, or to get out of the the house, whatever. So they accept, even though the brother here says, you know what, we will be living with our parents. The sister says, okay, I accept, no problems. Then she comes here, what happens? She meets this lovely posse. You know you have rights, you know you can do this, you know you can call this, you know you can do that. All of a sudden things change. Subhanallah. So what I recommend for the sisters, before they accept, they meet the mother-in-law. Okay? They sit down with them to see if they actually get along with them or not. And we remember, there are 4 things that you have to do. Istishara, istikhara, azman, tawakkul, before you make that decision. Istishara, you consult. Istikhara, you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of what you don't know about, what's in the heart, what's hidden, what's in the future. And azm, after Allah gives you the green light, a clear sign, inshallah, something will go good or bad or easy or difficult. Not dreams and things, and so on. So after this azm, you're determined to follow that sign, and tawakkul, you put your trust on Allah that that decision is the best for you, and don't look back and don't go against it. That's your backup system. So you have to be proactive. Don't go into it with the wrong intention, and you will have hard time, you will have difficult time. So I usually recommend for them to meet the mother-in-law and discuss certain issues. You know what? Mother-in-law or auntie or mama or what do they call it? Whatever. Tika, acha, whatever. I don't know. So Habibi is what's the? Don't me. So you do what? You have a program. You have something written down. It says, listen, I understand, and you make sure you tell her this. I understand that this is your domain, because it's her domain. Ukhti, because you're going in on her field. You're going in with the background of what? You know what? I'm gonna take this old lady out, man, because I know that this is this stuff, furniture. You know what? No, I don't like this furniture. I'm gonna turn this around, but let me put my foot in the door first, then turn things around. This kitchen is mine. This is my husband. But you forgot, Ukhti, that she actually this man that you have as your husband, he was her son before he was your husband. She devoted her whole life before she's given it to you. This is her home. You're on her turf. So I recommend for you know what? Let's do your homework. What day do you want help in the kitchen, mother? Yes, what days would you like? Write this down. And have both witnesses sign this contract, man. You know what? On days like this, I want your help. On days like this is mine. You want this, you do this and that. And have privacy rules. Give them like whatever, even that room. Tell the mother-in-law, you know what? This is now, you can't, because we usually get the complaints. They barge in. This is my house. You can't do that either. So you have to have an understanding for both ways. So please note that, the idea behind it is communicate, agree on certain things before you go ahead and do this. And I want you to go in with the intention, Ukhti, that you're pleasing number 1 on your list means your husband, and pleasing his number 1 on his list with his mother. And you will be there one day. And whatever you do will be done unto you, even though the hadith is da'if and bayaqi, whatever. But I'm just saying that the sense is there. So what do? You go in with earning thawab. Let me help. Let me be good to the elder and respect to earn the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the pleasure of my husband. And I'll finish with one story. It's too much. I mean, we talk about this in a lot of hours in the course if you've been there. But just to give you a story till we finish with it, inshallah, the story goes like this. This daughter-in-law hated her mother-in-law so much that she wanted to kill her. That's it, I can't take this anymore. So she goes to a doctor, says, I hate my mother-in-law, give me something to kill her. But don't do it quickly, otherwise everybody will know it's me. So give her something that will be slowly to kill this woman, this evil witch of the West. So what happens? The doctor gives her pills. So she started now to feel better already. I'm going to get rid of that evil woman. So she gives her a pill every day, making her, I think that this is what she wanted her, actually, and she's feeling better already. She started to treat her nicely. And then reciprocating, her mother-in-law actually felt better, and she was actually good to her too. All of a sudden, the daughter-in-law is becoming attached to the mother-in-law, and she doesn't want her to die. She's freaking out. I'm beginning to love this woman. I'm the one who's killing her. She runs back to the doctor, says, Doc, please help me. I don't want this woman to die anymore. He says, don't worry. She's not going to die. What the pills have given you is exactly what she needed. The moral of the story is, ukhti, is be good to others. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will get those who will be good unto you. But again, please do your homework before you go, and don't take this out as a way to do it. Having said that, this does not give the green light to the mother-in-law to enslave the daughters-in-law, because in some cultures, believe it or not, they become their slaves. They do exactly what they do. That's not the case, ya akhi and ukhti. So please, let's go back to the etiquettes of Islam, how to be kind and benevolent to one another, and keeping things in perspective, and agreeing on certain things before you go into this battlefield. The brother, the husband now, and the son, may Allah help you. You are in a very tough place. You know what? You have your mother and you have your wife. لا يرثى له. يعني I feel sorry for you if you're in this. But last advice I give you, ukhti, please, whatever you do not put your husband in this following statement. It's either you or your mother in this house. You are doomed if you do this, ya ukhti. Okay, and there's another topic, inshallah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reconcile our hearts, inshallah, mend our differences, and make this home sweet home, inshallah. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair. A question for Sheikh Asim, a completely unrelated question. Are you allowed to have your body pierced?
Can't you see my tongue? First of all, Islam forbids mutilations, and it also forbids imitating the non-Muslims. So if you are asking me about a woman or a girl piercing her ears, this is permissible because this is a form of hanging the adornments and looking good. Piercing another piercing in the same ear, this raises question, doubts, but again, it is still permissible. Piercing the nose, in some cultures, Muslim cultures, this is acceptable and it's considered to be a form of beautification, so this is permissible. Now, if you pierce other parts of your body, especially the parts that hurts most, you have a problem. And this is not means of beautification. It is merely imitating the non-Muslims. And this is completely prohibited. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, and whoever imitates the whoever imitates people, he would be among them. وَمَنْ تَشَبَّهَ بِقَوْمٍ فَهُوَ مِنْهُمْ. So a Muslim has his identity. He does not blend in. He does not fit in a melting pot. If I see Sheikh Alaa or Sheikh Abu Usamah in the Eskimo, I would recognize that they are Muslims. It's very easy. Now, we're not supposed to, paint or dye our hair like the punks do in pink, and so that we would stand out in a crowd and be unique. No. You have to do what the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, externally and internally. And you have to avoid imitating the kuffar, which only the kuffar do. So piercing the body, as if I understand correctly, what the people do here in the West, this is completely unacceptable, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best.
Jazakallah khair. The questioner asks, I'm a medical student where sometimes I have to see a woman's aura to treat them. Now some people told me that I am not allowed to do that. What should I do? For Sheikh Abu Usamah.
Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. For extreme circumstances, Al-Islam allows what would normally be impermissible to become permissible in specific circumstances like this. Especially as a medical student, orders are coming from above the student. Orders, commands are coming from above the student. It is not in accordance to what he wants, what his deen says. He has to do what the curriculum tells him or her to do. So the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us, showing that he was definitely sent as a rahmah to all of the worlds. In Allah, قد تجاوز عن أمتي الخطأ والنسيان وما استكره عليه. Allah has overlooked my community, the things that they do it and they make a mistake. They thought the Qibla was that way, so they prayed that way. But they found out it was really that way. They did the best they can. It was a mistake. Allah overlooked that. And also what they did out of forgetfulness. He's sitting here right now and it dawns on him, I didn't pray Salat al-Asr. He gets up and he prays it once he remembers, and he's not responsible because he was created to forget and he forgot. And also Al-Islam overlooks the fact that people are compelled to do certain things. But when he's compelled, there's fiqh in the compulsion. He's allowed to do things that are normally not allowed for him, and is very restricted and tight. But nonetheless, he's not responsible. The other issue about the piercing, and I want to mention this because there's a segment of our community here that this concerns them in one way, and it concerns all of us. There is a issue called female genital mutilation, in which the cultures of Muslims and non-Muslims alike oppress the girl, and they mutilate the genitalia of the girl. And the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wasallam, when he told the lady who was responsible for this, doing this, Hani, he told her to be easy with it. Don't do like the Muslims are doing. So anyway, the point is, the World Health Organization, they said female genital mutilation is any tampering with the genitalia of the girl. Any tampering with the genitalia. There are three types. The extreme one that Muslims do in East Africa. And then the one that's a little lesser than that. And then the one that is the sunnah that the Prophet allowed, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It goes against what the World Health Organization said. Any tampering is not acceptable with the World Health Organization. And if you do that sunnah in the UK, you're breaking the law and you can go to jail. The point that I want to make about the piercing is that the kuffar, they attack the Muslims for the sunnah. I'm not talking about a second and a third group. We are against that. The deen is against that. But the sunnah, where a little bit is done, then the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't bring anything that's going to harm the people. And you don't have to do it. But the point is, the kuffar, they attack our religion and they describe our religion as being barbaric for having this particular sunnah there. But then, according to their own definition, when the girl, she puts a piercing in that area, according to them, that's female genital mutilation, but they don't have anything to say about it. So I'm mentioning this and I'm bringing it to your attention, connecting it to the lecture that we gave today about your identity. If you know who Allah is, you know who you are. You'll know yourself. And part of knowing yourself and knowing your identity, Muslims, especially you young people, don't apologize to people for anything about our religion. We're terrorists, we're fundamentalists. What happened in Norway, what is that? What is that? We want to see them deal with that situation the same way that they deal with us when a Muslim does do something that's not acceptable in the civilized world. So the point here is that type of piercing as well is not permissible, but as Muslims, we have to take the arguments of these people and throw it right back on them because they are people of contradictions. Tanaqadat. Wallahu a'la wa a'lam.
Jazakallah khair. Go ahead. The questioner asks, are piercings allowed for brothers, males?
As for men getting piercings, this is something that is not acceptable in the deen, and it is a kabira from the kaba'ir, because it is the women who beautify themselves with this form of tazayyun. And one of the proofs that it is a kabira is that the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, لَعَنَ اللَّهُ الْمُتَشَبِّهِينَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ بِالنِّسَاءِ. May Allah curse the men who resemble women. As for necklaces, wearing necklaces have never been from the way that men beautify themselves. There's a thing that's called metrosexual. Metrosexual means the man who's always preoccupied with looking fly and looking good. He has designer glasses. He has a pen that matches. There's nothing wrong with having a pen. But he has designer Gucci glasses, Gucci pen. He has Gucci this, Gucci that. And he's always in the mirror looking like this all the time. That's metrosexual. The Nabi told us, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, from al-iman is sometime for the man to be disheveled, not to put oil in his hair. Kana yamshi ahyanan hafiyan. He used to walk without his shoes. I don't advise you to go to your job without your shoes. I don't advise that. But the Nabi used to do those things, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, because that's part of how men are. Men, they have rajula. So for the young brothers, let us avoid these accessories. The ladies, they're the ones who they take on accessories to complete themselves. No matter how beautiful she is, no matter how long her hair is, she's going to put henna on, she's going to put different things on to beautify herself, because this is how the nature of the nisa are. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless our nisa.
Ameen. Jazakallah khair. The questioner, I assume it's a brother. I hope it's a brother. Please, can you explain the ruling regarding using anabolic steroids by Muslims in the gym? Is the use of steroids for bodybuilding haram? For Sheikh Assim.
Why me, yani? It is permissible to take whatever is beneficial for a Muslim. So if taking steroids, anabolic steroids, hormones, whatever, that would benefit you, this is permissible providing it does not have any harmful side effects. Now, why would a person in his sound mind take such stuff? To grow bigger. Why would someone in his right mind would want to grow bigger? Either he is a bodybuilder, and if you work out for your own self, if you work out for your wife and for the pleasure of yourself and your wife, this is acceptable. But the majority of those who work out don't do this for this reason. They do this so that they could either compete in competitions where they use hair removers from all of their body and put some oil so that they would sparkle and look like Barbie but on the masculine side, or to lure the opposite sex so that they would be attracted to them and fall into haram. Now, to my knowledge, and with the grace of Allah, I've never consumed or came across any of this stuff, not even protein, nothing, no supplements at all. Because I believe that if you use natural things, if you work out in the gym, you're fit. If you depend on supplements and other stuff, it would destroy you, or it would make you depressed if you get off that course. To my knowledge, steroids and all these other supplements and stuff are harmful for you. And I had a friend who was one of the top seeded or one of the top people in bodybuilding in the continent, not locally. And I recall that he used to tell one of our friends who was a pilot to bring him medication from Holland. And the pilot would come to me and say, Sheikh, what is this? And I look and it's horse hormones. And when I talk to this brother, he says, yeah. He has a big voice. I cannot imitate that. I think it's with the hormones. And he used to take those. And the man got married. And for 4 or 5 years, he would not have any children. He went to the doctor. He made the test they usually do. He said, what are you doing? Your sperms have like 5,000 instead of 8 million. You have 5,000 instead of 8 million. He said, no way this is going to be happening for you. So you have to cut everything. And the man stopped everything and started praying. MashaAllah, he became practicing for a couple of years. And now he has half a dozen. MashaAllah, and counting. Of course, he's not doing any of the things that he used to do. The point is, no one in his right mind would put anything in his body that is not natural. And always look for the intention. What is your intention? To impress people with something that angers Allah? To impress the opposite sex? It's even worse than a sin. Every time you go to the gym and work out, you're sinful. With every bench press, with every triceps, with every biceps you do, you are sinful because your intention is not for the sake of Allah, and Allah knows best.
Barakallahu feekum, Sheikh. The questioner asks, I have a friend who has missed previous prayers, but now she wants to keep on top of her prayers, inshallah. May Allah give her strength, Ameen. But she feels ashamed to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after this. How can I encourage her? For Sheikh Alaa.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulullah. Amma ba'd. This is a Mercy Mission pin, just in case you're wondering, you know. Yes, it's not a designer's pin, Sheikh. The sister, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you strength, ukhti, and thabat, insha'Allah, to be able to hold on to La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. In the core of that statement is a salah. So what do? I go with the opinion that is the easier one. There are opinions, obviously, how to make up the prayers and so on. I go with the opinion that is easier because there is proof in it. Alhamdulillah, and the Prophet Muhammad was given a choice between two. He always chose the easier one as long as it was halal and he was furthest away from haram. So if you haven't been praying for a long time, ukhti, according to one madhab, one school of thought, that you are not a Muslim. I'm not going to go to the debate between Malik and Shafi'i and all rahmatullah alayhim ajmain. I'm not Ahmad and Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhim. But the idea is that according to one madhab, they take the dhahir, you know, the of hadith. It says the difference between us and them is a salah. If you establish the prayer, you're a Muslim. If you're not, then you're not. So one opinion says that if you were not a Muslim at the time, now you're repenting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you want to pray. One opinion is make the ghusl. Take the shower with the intentions of repentance. Declare the shahada and start praying fresh. Among the opinions of the scholars says, if you start making up all that stuff, is a burden upon you and it's a trick of shaitan. And it actually deters, it's among the deterrent of repentance, because now shaitan is going to come and play with your head. You haven't prayed for 20 years. You got to make up everything. You got to stay up at night. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. Now all of a sudden you're overwhelmed to sab al-futur. Then you can't keep this up. So it's like somebody's smoking. We're not asking you to do this. Smoking is haram, by the way. And all of a sudden you want to run a marathon. Can you do that? You have to slow down, you quit, then you walk, then run a bit, then start like working the gym with no steroids like a Sheikh and all that stuff. Then you can start working your way up to the endurance of the marathon. Same thing. So we're saying, ukhti, take the easy way. And the other proof of that is one on Judgment Day, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, has that slave of mine completed the salah? If he hasn't completed salah, what did they look for? What was asked for? Another obligatory prayer? It says the sunan. The sunan will fulfill and complete the salah you missed. So the recommendation for you, ukhti. First of all, never despair of Allah's mercy, as we talked about it earlier. Second, the glad tidings is, as we mentioned again, إِلَّا مَنْ تَابَ وَآمَنَ وَعَمِلَ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا فَأُولَٰئِكَ يُبَدِّلُ اللَّهُ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ حَسَنَاتٍ. Except those who repent, believe and do good deeds, Allah will transform their evil deeds into good deeds. That's the glad tidings. And don't listen to shaitan. That, you know what? You're thinking that Allah will not forgive me. That is a sin in itself, as we mentioned earlier. Rahmati wasi'at kulli shay. My mercy encompasses all. My mercy is greater than all. You understand? And we talked about the man that killed 99 lives. You did not kill 99 lives, ukhti. No matter what, you did not kill 99 lives. No matter what. So when you come back, the glad tidings is given, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you repentance, give you more rewards, giving you a clean slate, a brand new start with a sign-in bonus, like a lawful bribe. Amazing. Wallahi, how could you go away from that? So recommendation again, take the ghusl, make the shahada, start with the obligatory prayers only, please. And do not make up every prayer with another prayer, according to the opinion I follow. And when you have the strength and you got the 5 obligatory prayers under your belt and you're going strong, then you can add the sunan, ya ukhti. Then you can add the qiyam. Then you can add the nawafil. Then the rawatib, and slowly and gradually, ukhti. I say congratulations to you first and foremost for feeling this way, and welcome back. Hold on to that. Don't let shaitan beat you and say Allah will not forgive you and I have to make up all that stuff. Don't be there. Don't fall in the trap of shaitan, ukhti. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you steadfast and make you hold on to La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah till you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be the neighbor of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wa akhir da'am alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wallahu a'lam first and foremost.
May Allah bless you, Sheikh. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts everyone's repentance, inshallah. The questioner asks, I went to a cash point and found some money. I waited around for a while to see if anyone returned to look for it, but no one came back. I took the money home with me, but I did not know what to do with it. It's loose cash with nothing to identify the owner with. Please advise me as to what I should do. For Sheikh Abu Usamah.
In the books of fiqh in Islam, there is the chapter of the things that have been lost and found, because no rock has been left except it has been turned over and dealt with extensively in the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. Again, about our identity, we have to remember that the Yahudi came to Salman al-Farisi and he made istihza. He wanted to put him down. He wanted to make him embarrassed about being a Muslim. He said, your Nabi taught you people everything, even how to go to the toilet. Salman al-Farisi did not take the position of some Muslims. Yes, you're right, I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry, please forgive me. He didn't take that position. But he told that man, you're right, Ajal. He did teach us everything, even how to go to the toilet. He told us, if you go to the toilet, don't use your right hand when you're cleaning yourself. Don't face the Qibla. If you're relieving yourself, the big relief or the small relief, don't face the Qibla at all, out of respect to the Qibla. He taught us also not to make istinja with less than 3 rocks. If you're out in the desert and you don't have anything but rocks, don't use less than 3. And he also taught us, don't make istinja, don't clean yourself with the bones of the animals or dry dung. The point here is, If our Nabi brought a religion, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, tibyanan li kulli shay, a book that explains everything in religion, do you think he's going to forget about telling us the things we need to know about lost and found property, or even greater than that, where Allah is, where Allah isn't, what he does, what he doesn't do, who he is, who he isn't? You think that this religion doesn't tell us what's the correct minhaj and what's the incorrect minhaj? This religion didn't tell us shabbarat or other than that, if it's from Islam, not from Islam. So concerning this issue of the lost and found, if it was in a place like the masjid where the people are coming and going, then you announce it. If you think it belongs to Muslims, for an example, if you are not sure, you announce it for 1 year, do the process. If no one comes and get it, it's sure. But if it's out in the street, and no one more than likely is going to claim it, you can do a number of things. Number one, you can keep it for yourself, especially if you're in need of it. And if it's insignificant, you can keep it for yourself. The man came and there was a lost animal in the desert. And he wasn't sure, should I take it, should I not take it? So he took it. The Nabi told him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you wouldn't have taken it, it would have been for the wolf. The wolf would have ate it. If you didn't take it, the wolf, someone would have come and no benefit would have been derived from it. So if you found that money, you can take that money, you can keep that money. But if you wanted to take that money because you're a person who has wara', you don't want anything that has any shubha to enter into your body, you want your dua to be accepted, you're just on that level, then you can give the money in sadaqah, insha'Allah ta'ala. You give the money in sadaqah. But it's permissible for you to take it if you're quite sure no one's going to come and get it. You can take the money. Don't leave it there. Don't leave it there. Take the money, use it, take the money, give sadaqah with it so that someone can get benefit from it and with it, as opposed to a drunk coming, a drug addict coming, and they take the money and they use it in that which is harmful and that which is permissible. And my Lord Allah is A'la and A'lam.
Unless it's in Mecca.
And from the ahkam of the laqta, those things that are lost, when it's in Mecca, it's a different story because of the hurma of the sacred nature of Mecca. But I think this is a question about the ATM somewhere around here. So if it's the ATM here, do what I said. In Mecca, because of the sacred nature of Mecca and Mukarramah, the ruling is different.
Jazakallah khair. A question for Sheikh Asim. With regards to marriage completing half of one's religion, what about where either spouse or both spouses are not honoring each other's duties and obligations? Is that half your religion achieved in such marriages? If not, what can be done?
The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ states that if a person gets married, then Allah Azza wa Jal has fulfilled half of his religion, so he should pay attention or take care of the remaining half. And the scholars explain this hadith by saying that when a person marries, what is meant by half of his religion is fulfilled? They say that the majority of sins take place with his private parts or her private parts and of what comes out of the mouth, whether it comes out or comes in, whether you eat haram or you say haram. So if a person gets married, then his chastity and on this topic has been preserved and secured. So it does not have to do with not being on good terms with your spouse. This has nothing to do, because you've got married and hopefully for your sake and hers that your sexual desires are being fulfilled. If not, then no, you have a problem and you have to fix this. And it's very funny and weird that a lot of the Muslims and the questions I've been getting, that men and women complain of intimacy problems not in the weeks or months, but in the years. One of the sisters called in saying that she had not come close to her husband for the past 13 years. And they're living in the same house. And this email I got this morning. I don't know if it's from here or not. And they're asking, is our marriage still valid or not? 13 years? What is this? Are they taking something or a pill? Or I cannot imagine a man and his wife being together in the same house and not having such a relationship. This is the core of marriage. So, in short, if you have a problem with your spouse, you have to get this thing fixed. You have to communicate. Don't allow shaitan to implant his trees, because now they're grown up and they are jungles instead of gardens. Try to communicate. Try to solve the problems. If you are unable to do this, try to get someone to mediate, marriage counselor, Muslim marriage counselor, and get things, inshallah, solved. And Allah knows best.
Jazakallah khair. Inshallah, the final question for Sheikh Alaa. Are Muslims supposed to fear death? Are they meant to want to die? What is the correct attitude towards this?
What's the Muslim? Sorry, repeat the question, please.
Fear death.
Fear death? Okay. Okay. Bismillah.
And are they supposed to want to?
Just to make sure we understand the question, are Muslims are supposed to fear death or ask to die? Okay. Before we go, there's also a blue pill that may be able to help you through certain things.
Death?
No, Sheikh. The other question before the question.
I don't know. I'm colorblind.
Okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala negate us to actually, to kill ourselves, as we mentioned earlier. And is also narrated in the hadith. He says, do not ask to die. But what is it? He says, Allahumma hini ma damat al-haya khayran li wa amitni ma dam al-maut khayran li. So we ask whatever is best for us. And we do not ask, we don't fear death. We don't fear death, ya akhi. But why do we fear death, first of all? Exactly. Of what we have done, what we earned. When the righteous scholar was asked, why do we hate death? You know what did he say? He said, لأنكم خربتم دنياكم عمرتم دنياكم وخربتم أخراكم ولا يريد أحد أن يترك العمار إلى الخراب. You have now built everything around this life, the dwellings. You've invested everything in this life. But you haven't invested anything else in the hereafter. So who wants to leave the abandoned dwellings and leave into the abandoned area? And that's what happens. And this among the illness of the ummah is wahan. When among the signs of time that we narkan lid dunya, we love this dunya much and we hate death. So we don't fear death, ya akhi. Yes, we fear, not Allah not accepting our sins, not accepting our deeds, and so on. We fear that, and even wajil, that you're doing the righteous deeds, and the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, you said, we don't know whether Allah subhanahu wa taala accepts or not. But when Aisha radiallahu anha told Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we all hate death. He says, how could that be? But he says it's not that. It's not when you love meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will love meeting you. When you're hating meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will hate. It's not the case. So we have to keep it in perspective, inshallah. He says, do not لا تتمنوا لقاء العدو. It's not that. But if you meet the enemy, don't ask for it. For the fighting the enemies. But if you do, فَثْبُتُوا. Be steadfast. Do not be fearful. It's not befitting for a true a believer to be as such. Well, even though the exception of lying, I mean, could a believer be so and so on? Yes, you have that, of course. But in essence, in completing in a nutshell, you only fear death if you haven't prepared yourself. Like Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu was getting the lesson from Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. What was it? He said he was on his deathbed. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, Khalifat Rasulillah. And Umar ibn Khattab, Amir al-Mu'mineen radiallahu anhu wardah. He says, Ya Umar, Wallahi ya Umar, if you do righteous, nothing is more beloved to you than death. If you do otherwise, nothing is more abhorred and disliked in your sight except death. And he says, why do you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala جعل آية الرحمة مع آية العذاب ليكون العبد راغبا راهبا. Why do you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the verse of mercy next to the verse of punishment? So you can be what? Hopeful in the mercy of Allah and fearful of the punishment of Allah. So like Ibn Taymiyyah says, you should be like a bird. The body and the head is a taqwa, and the right and the left wing, right? Love and fear, and that's how you should do it. So keep things in perspective. If you've done good, that day should be your best day. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make last words is La ilaha illallah. The best days will meet Allah, and the best actions are last actions. Wa akhir da'wam alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa sallam ala alihi wa sahbihi wa tabi'in. Jazakumullah khairan. Wassalamu alaikum. Wallahu a'lam first and foremost.
غرباء غرباء غرباء